Kentucky basketball is trying their hardest to land the number one player in the 2026 class, Tyran Stokes. And if they get him, this is what they should do with the rest of their roster.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to talk about what exactly Kentucky should do if they find themselves landing the number one overall player, Tyran Stokes. There are a lot of different things that Kentucky could do, but a lot of it is honestly dependent on what the guys that they brought in this season do and how they perform. We'll touch on that here in just a second. Also on today's episode, we're going to talk about how maybe Kentucky has to have players leave this year's team in order to make the 2026-2027 team better. Getting all of that on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, would love it if you subscribe to the show. And if you're listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. If Kentucky gets Tyran Stokes, we're going to talk about what they should do with the rest of their roster, what they should do with their recruiting class, what should they do in the transfer portal? Because here's the issue. And I think we've talked about this a little bit before on the show, but now that Kentucky's actually not necessarily in a leader position with Stokes, they're comfortably in the race, and I think they're the team right now that needs to be overtaken in this recruiting process. There's a glaring issue. If Kentucky adds Tyran Stokes, they do not have a spot for him on the roster. And what I mean by that is that they don't have a spot open at the 3 or the 4 where he could comfortably play and dominate minutes. Look at the way that next year's roster could set up. If everyone that can stay stays, minus Jaden Quaintance, who I expect to declare for the 2026 NBA draft after playing at Kentucky. If everyone else stays, you bring back Jalen Lowe as a senior point guard, Jasper Johnson as a sophomore guard, Colin Chandler as a junior guard, Braydon Hawthorne as a sophomore, Trent Noah as a junior, Cam Williams as a junior, Mo Diabate as a senior, Andrea Yelovich as a sophomore, Brandon Garrison as a senior, Malachi Moreno as a sophomore, and then Reese Potter as well as a senior. Stokes is listed as a power forward on 24/7 Sports. He's listed as a small forward on On3. Let's just say he tweens between the two positions, although I would probably play him at power forward just because I would rather have somebody at the 3 that can probably give you a little bit more volume from beyond the arc. I don't necessarily care about crazy efficiency, but that I would like to be able to see somebody that comfortably has that in their arsenal. I don't necessarily know if that's Stokes' game, at least not currently. You already have 3 guys that could tween between small forward and power forward. And Hawthorne, I think, could be a small ball option at the 4 if he is able to build a little bit of muscle, because the kid's 6'8", right? You could put Hawthorne, Noah, Williams, or Diabate, I think, at the 4. I think that Hawthorne and Noah would be more comfortable at the 3. I think Diabate would be more comfortable at the 4 alongside Yelovich, and then Cam, I think, in tween between both spots. I think that's what he did at Tulane a season ago, at least according to Ken Palm. Stokes, if he came in, would get the lion's share of minutes at either position that Kentucky wants to play him at, right? But at the sacrifice of another one of these players in the rotation. Would that be Trent, who takes a step back? Would it be Braydon Hawthorne, whose development into year 2, I think a lot of people are excited about, and I think that's very crucial that his minutes expand from whatever they are this season. Is it Cam Williams, depending on how he performs? I don't know. Is it Mohamed Diabate, because he's willing to take a step back and just be the hard hat guy that comes off the bench for 15 minutes a game? I don't know how Kentucky would want to do it. If they do bring Stokes in, you have to try and get Andrea Jelovic to be a small ball 5. For the most part, you would be playing him as a 5-man off of the bench. I think that he could play that position. We have not seen him at the college game yet, or college level yet, so I don't know. He is 6'11". You could throw him down there if you want to. Don't know how exactly your defense is going to work out, although I will say the thought process of having Jalen Lowe, Colin Chandler, Braydon Hawthorne, Tyran Stokes, and Andrea Jelovic, that's a really good offensive group. Like a really good offense. You have to let Diabate come off the bench behind Stokes, and you have to slide Jelovic down to the 5 if you want to try and get everyone minutes in this current situation. That is, in my mind right now, for all of these guys to get time and the production that they would probably want to have. It is difficult to envision a world where everyone is happy. It's very difficult to envision a world where Cam Williams is happy with the minutes that he gets alongside Hawthorne and Noah, who cannot slide up to the 2. Neither of those guys should play the 2. Chandler, who I think has the ability to switch 1 through 3, would slide up to shooting guard and would stay there, I think. Diabate would probably have to take the biggest sacrifice out of everybody, and it's a question of whether or not he's willing to do that. Are you willing to sit behind the number 1 overall recruit and a lottery pick in next year's draft class for your senior year at Kentucky? Can Kentucky either afford to pay him enough or promise him enough minutes-wise and production-wise to get him to stay? We'll talk about more about like how things could shake out here in just a second, but as of today, if everyone minus Quaintance came back that could, Tyran Stokes and his spot on this roster, I think, would be a very interesting conversation for both Kentucky as a team and their staff and for us as fans to discuss. Because it's not also just, okay, how do we get everybody around him satisfied? It's also, how exactly do we use his skill set with the players that are surrounding him? Because as I mentioned a second ago, yeah, he could slide up to the 3 if you wanted him to. At the same time, he's a bit of a smaller 4 in terms of height. Now, he's got the weight. He's 6'7", 245. He's got the muscle and the athleticism to play power forward. But he's not exactly, I think, purely one or the other. And then you also have a really interesting roster around him that's probably going to shoot the daylights out of the ball, just looking at this. But do you have that defense at the 5? That is crucial for Kentucky. Can you play defense at your 5 spot in 2026? When SEC play gets around and you're getting into the middle of the conference slate, can you protect the rim unlike you were in Mark Pope's first season? Does Stokes provide that, right? At the 4, does he consistently provide solid on-ball defense? Does he consistently provide solid post defense? I don't necessarily know, and that's not me saying he doesn't. This is also a freshman that you would probably be throwing in for quite a bit of minutes. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe he comes in and he's like, yeah, I'm comfortable with playing 25, 28 minutes a game and rotating with Jelovic or Diabate or who have you, right? He's comfortable playing wherever Kentucky needs him to fill those minutes and showcasing what he is as an NBA talent in the time allotted to him. Pope has been very clear about the type of player that he wants to recruit. He wants to recruit somebody that understands what it means to wear this jersey, and he wants somebody that wants to be a part of the team. Obviously, part of the pitch is what can we give you financially? Obviously, part of the pitch is this is the University of Kentucky. Everyone's going to watch you regardless of how many minutes you get, and the difference between 25 to 35 may not be as substantial in your mind because everyone's going to be watching. Every NBA scout, anyone at the next level that could possibly come out and get you or suggest to draft you, everyone's going to see it. So maybe I am overthinking this a little bit, but there are two sides to this. It's about keeping him happy, and it's about keeping the rest of the roster happy, and that's not even including what else should Kentucky do with the portal, with the recruiting class. Like, can they get more players in and keep them all satisfied? Because Jalen Lowe is going to shoot the ball a lot. Jasper Johnson, that's what he does. Braydon Hawthorne is probably going to end up being a very versatile, probably, I would say, efficient option for Kentucky at the 3. Trent Noah is one of the best shooters in the country, according to Jalen Lowe. Cam Williams was brought in as a 41+% shooter, right? Or 40% plus shooter. Yelovich can stretch out to the three-point line. BG is doing the same, right? Potter was a shooter at Miami of Ohio. Everyone on this roster can shoot the rock in 2025, 2026. Does Stokes fit? So this is what Kentucky needs to do outside of adding Stokes. We talked about this is what they should do with their roster in its current state. Let's talk about what they need to do with the rest of it here in just a second. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course, on or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I know that I certainly do whenever I go get a little golf in with a brother or a friend. Or sometimes, let's say you're not on the course, let's say you're on the court. Sometimes you're trying to get some pickup games in. You need that extra boost, and 5 Hour Energy can provide that. Golf is about good times with good people and good flavors. Of course, the grape, you guys know, if you've listened to the show for any amount of time, grape, hands down, my favorite flavor of anything. I was actually talking about that earlier tonight. Ginger, lime flavor also gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders because whether you're meeting up with friends, trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. All right, continuing along here on the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, guys. 20,000 subs. Just the fact that we're even close to it is insane. I think we're at like 17.6 right now. Thank you so much to everybody on podcast, on YouTube, wherever you are tuned in. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We are so freaking close, guys. I just want basketball back. I want football. I want anything back. This summer has felt like it has gone on for an eternity. I am ready for sports to be back. Hopefully, they'll be back sooner than we realize. I mean, hey, fall camp has already started. College football is just around the corner. We'll look up. We'll be talking about Kentucky season opener here. Just a few weeks. I am fired up. Something else I'm fired up about. The concept of getting Tyran Stokes, the number 1 overall recruit, just a menace getting downhill, unstoppable, it feels like at times, getting to the rim. The athleticism, the muscle, just the fact that the kid's 6'7", 245, he's a freaking freight train. Very fun to watch. Very fun to watch. We talked about what Kentucky, like the issue surrounding him, if they try and land him. They got a lot of mouths to feed. And I don't know if they're all exactly going to be happy, himself included, in the spot that they find themselves in. People are going to have to take a back seat. This is what Kentucky needs to do in additions if everyone who realistically stays can stay. No portal exits. Nobody just quitting the game, period. First and foremost, this is the biggest issue for Kentucky, adding somebody outside of Stokes. They need a backup point guard. Pure point guard. I do not want a combo guard. I do not want a guy that could play down to the wing. Not only do we not need it, I want a pure PG. And preferably, I need them to be a good two-way point guard. I need some freaking on-ball defense at my one. And I think that right now, he's on an official visit, or he's on an OV right now as we speak, if I'm not mistaken. And that's Darren Rippey Jr. Actually, no, it's not him. It was another center. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. Rippey Jr., if I'm not mistaken, he's taking an official visit this weekend. He's going to be here in like a day. I got my players mixed up. Kentucky's doing some stuff on the recruiting trail. That's what we're talking about in the next episode, by the way, so y'all stay tuned. But Darren Rippey Jr., I think, would be the perfect addition to next year's roster. The Blair Academy point guard, tabbed as a very solid defensive player. Adam Finkelstein, director of scouting at 24/7 Sports, said, quote, Rippey has always been a two-way guard who impacts the game just as much on the defensive end as he does the offensive end. He's actually come around a little bit with his shot-making ability, apparently, as of late, but it's the defense that gets him going. You either need Darren Rippey Jr. as your backup pure point guard, or you need to find another Lamont Butler type. By the way, Rippey Jr., a five-star prospect, almost top 15 player according to 24/7 Sports. If you can find a Lamont Butler in the portal, which is, I think, would be very difficult to find another one of him, just because of how good he was defensively, that would be awesome. It's either Rippey or a Butler type, and it's bonus points for that portal player if you are somehow able to get a guy that has multiple years of eligibility, right? To where you don't have to replace your entire guard rotation in 2027, 2028. If you can find a guy that can be here for multiple years, even just two. If I could get a guy that's a rising junior, right? Like he can play his junior and senior year here, be the starting point guard, or split time with Rippey, or be behind. It doesn't matter. Not Rippey, with split time with a recruit or another transfer portal player. Who knows? But that is priority numero uno. If you get Stokes, awesome. Awesome. We just landed the best player in the country, and hands down the best player in the class that's going to dominate for UK. Try and find a backup point guard. True PG. Second thing you need to do. You do need to find another guard, another backup guard, in my mind. You are covered on the wing. Hawthorne, Noah, Williams, Diabate can slide up if you want to. Colin Chandler can slide down. You got 5 different options there at small forward. You are fine on the wing. Get another guard. My suggestion is the perfect guy out there for you that could play shooting guard is Caleb Holt. If you could somehow convince Caleb Holt to come in and play behind Jasper Johnson, Colin Chandler at the 2 spot, and rotate him in at the 3, and slide Jasper up to the 1 at different points, and slide Chandler down to the 3 and rotate guys. If you could find a way to convince him that you've got enough minutes for him here at the University of Kentucky, I'd take Caleb Holt. Why would I take Caleb Holt? Why would I take 2 freshmen? That would be my gut reaction. Why would I take 2 more freshmen with this recruiting class? It's because I think Rippey you can have for multiple years. Holt I'm unsure about, but I think it's doable. Stokes is one and done. He's going to be here and he's going to be gone. You want to find some way to collect roster continuity with freshmen, high-profile freshmen, instead of having them start, play all of the minutes, and then leave after one season. The way that UConn won their title was by a beautiful blend of portal players, freshmen, and then high-profile recruits that were able to stay for multiple seasons. If you convince Holt to come and get Darren Rippey as well to surround Stokes in this cast, you are going to have players that rise up to their sophomore year and after a year of college development with Pope are only going to have the opportunity to get better. It is only going to get better for those players. You would also have guys like Jasper Johnson rising up, right? Trent Noah and Colin Chandler are juniors. Braydon Hawthorne could break out, right? There are so many different ways that you could kind of keep things fresh if you get 2 freshmen to add to this year's roster. Normally, in the past, I've been like, man, if we can get some more transfers, that'd be awesome. To try and add some experience and depth to this team. And now it's like, okay, we're balancing all these positions pretty well. Let's see if we can get some freshmen to come in and try and sell them on multiple seasons. And what should help with this, what should definitively help with this, is NIL. You can tell a recruit, hey, we'll get you a package where you can come here, make $4 or $5 million collectively, maybe more. I don't know what the number is. We give you X amount of money that keeps you here for one more season to develop you and then ship you off to the NBA as a lottery pick. Because right now you're a fringe guy there. We're going to take you and we're going to make you into something better because we have the system, we have the coaching, we have the players around you to make you look as good as possible to get you to that next level. Kentucky's got a great pitch. They have a great pitch for next year's roster. If you want to add a couple more pieces, they just can't be where Tyron Stokes plays, right? They have to be in that backcourt area. So those are the 2 things I think Kentucky has to do. I would lean freshman, but if you can get anybody that can play multiple seasons out of the transfer portal at point guard and then at guard, period, shooting guard probably, then I would take that. The problem with this, and this is how we're wrapping up the show, the problem is almost definitely someone, like I mentioned earlier, someone's not going to be happy. Someone is not going to be happy with their minutes, almost definitively, with what their role is on the team. And it's almost more than likely going to come from a player that plays on the wing right now. And I'm not saying I know anything about anything going on with Kentucky in their roster and whether or not kids are currently happy or whether or not they're trying to boot kids out. I'm not saying that. But it makes sense that one of these guys probably going to want to at least consider going to play elsewhere because of all the different mouths to feed. They may want to do that if they want to try and better their career. For them personally. I'm not saying we're trying to boot them out. I'd love to have every player. It is very dependent, though, on how they perform this year, unless everyone just balls out. We got hyper efficiency across the board, great on-ball defense, better rim protection, better physicality, better everything. Someone's going to be either nudged in the direction of leaving, or we're going to add people. They're not going to want to sit or stick around. Probably rightfully so for the betterment of their own career. Caden Lewis took this route, right? And he didn't even freaking get here. He said, "You're trying to recruit over me. That's fine, but I want to go play elsewhere." It's probably going to come from the wing. If it's Williams, if it's Noah, if it's Diabate, I could see all of those guys taking 1 year and leaving. I could see it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Like, I'm not saying, oh, Cam Williams is going to be here for 1 year and leave because he's going to suck. It's not what I'm saying. Whether or not you need or want, in addition, like Caleb Holt, like Christian Collins, like somebody like that, right? Somebody like that through the recruiting class or the transfer portal. All of that is, I think, really dependent on how guys perform this year. Who knows? Maybe everybody has a great year, or most everybody has a great year for what their role is, and we just run it back. Like we said, we just run it back. We had 3 freshmen. We go for it. We're going to get a feel as to whether or not our role players can make the pop that we want them to with this year's roster. Kentucky is deep enough to comfortably rotate guys in and put them in good positions to succeed game in and game out. We saw that whenever Kentucky was healthy. We saw guys like Perry and Chandler and Noah, whenever they got in, they were able to make impacts in big games in small amounts of minutes, right? And as the wear and tear grew, it's where you saw some people who I don't necessarily think needed to be in as large of a role as they were get forced into some awkward situations. Thankfully, Kentucky had enough veteran experience to kind of offset that. Final thing I'll say. I would be a little concerned with Kentucky's rim protection if Brandon Garrison and Malachi Moreno, without insane development from BG on the defensive end and seeing more out of Moreno than what I expect to this year, I would be concerned about Kentucky's rim protection if those were just your two guys there. That's not enough at the 5. You have to have somebody else that plays really good rim defense. Someone is going to leave this roster through the portal next season. It could be multiple guys, I think. I just don't know who. We'll see how they play. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. Follow me on Twitter at Lance Dawe_. Follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns? Leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And of course, God bless.